Hey guys, I wanted to get my uh Outcast shirt for you. I still don't know how much it is in the picture. Let me put some shoes on. Um, Not much to catch up on because everybody that cares knows because they're on my page. Yeah, I guess this. Um, like, how do I say this? I'm like, Stella, you should think about like what you say before you speak, but that'll never happen. So, yeah. Um, I'm going to try hard not to just ban, perma ban anyone that says, "I'm so glad you're doing well. I'm so glad to see you doing good." I'm gonna try, and just be like, "I'm so fucking zen, bitch." But it's really hard since there's nothing about me that's in a million miles of the stratosphere of okay. And anyone that actually supports me would know that. But um, yeah. How's this? Last night, I was in so much, so much pain, like emotionally, whatever. And I don't like her to hear me screaming. So if I have like a pillow, maybe I'll use that. But I like take like my hand, my arm, my wrist here, and I had to stop myself from tearing through, like, what is it, the radial artery, because you don't really feel it when you're in that much screaming pain, um, like what you're doing. So yeah, if that's okay, and if you're so glad, you're so happy that that's how I'm doing, then what the hell's wrong with you? Sorry. I haven't tried these on yet, so I'm like, I might need like a safety pin, but in the meantime, or not a safety pin. You ever use paperclip? You can hook it through when you're putting on a boot. Little, yeah. So I saw this picture. It was on a shirt. Um, and I I can buy the shirt. Why would I buy the shirt when, as it turns out, like if you're like, suspended. By the way, suspended for wearing a bathing suit. It turns out that's not allowed on YouTube. I didn't know that you're not allowed to wear a bathing suit on YouTube. I get it. I'm not gonna do that again. I have, and it could have been that I had a rash from the like emotional torture I'm going through, but I couldn't even wear like pantyhose or pants or anything. And I should have just not done a show at all. Um had I known that you weren't allowed to wear a bathing suit or at least a two-piece bathing suit on YouTube. I didn't know that. Now I know that. I got it. I'll follow that. But um yeah, but you guys already know that because we've talked about this. But the shirt. Oh yeah, well, it's being suspended, so I can't even be here for weeks. So, thank God John helped me get some canned food for Fila, so she won't go hungry, and I still have some cartons of food that he sent me, like Hormel. So, but it's like you got to kind of ration that, so I certainly wasn't buying a shirt. But the shirt reminded me of you guys and what I'm, going through. And it just said, and I'm gonna have the picture. It says, well, look at it says, before Pooh knew it, along came a parade of his very good friend. And I'm the Pooh. Wait, hold on. Hold on. Yeah. Yeah, it fits. I'm the boom, and that's you guys, and this is why I'm still here because the people that actually, actually care, and I do appreciate that. Thank you, Jerry. Um, and for that, I would like nothing more than to read to you guys. Can I be rude? Shut up. Be Jonathan. Saw this guy. Cause like sometimes like if I don't hear from people for a bit, I don't like look them up like on my page because I get afraid of like what I saw. And I get like worried. And I'm like, well, don't think the worst. Like, and it's like this person, and that's, yeah, I swear, if I see him here, I'm just gonna, it's from what's that song? Was it Kill This Love? Um, and no, he was on just like an hour before, not to support me. It has this thing, it's like your friend, like the people I support, this like buzz cut woman with like nasty looking tattoos. And I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to like, I don't know, be like that, buzz cut my hair, and then I wouldn't have to like starve. Like that'd be more deserving. And that's what I'm saying. If I see that person come in to be like, oh, I missed you so, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. You were too busy watching the buzz cut Janet with the tattoos. Um, I don't know if their name's Janet. That's just a random ass female name. I'm moody, okay? What do you expect? I should just um Terry's still on vacation. John's still on vacation, which maybe means I can probably read a bit later. Because I usually like to end it before he goes, but he get going to bed earlier while he's on vacation. You're off, Janet. Damn it, Janet. Um, Nails on. For those that how your head gets when you're in depression and grief. I want to say for for those that observe, like if it's a holiday. If I saw someone say that about the Taylor Swift album, like Taylor Swift release day for those that observe. um, I almost wanted to use a line for my a title from Actually Romantic from the haters, but I didn't because I'm the poo. I just love that. um, but yeah, God, I almost hesitate to come on and truthfully talk about how horrifically depressed I am. But at the same time, because I know there's like line of people that hate me. Whenever someone comes like new and wants to like join and get to know me, I always have to say like, listen, there are people that are obsessed with me and they will never leave. Like not permanently. Like they'll always eventually search me out and they want to see me fail. They want to see me die. And you know what though? Sweetie, sweetie, one day I am gonna die. And you know what? After this grief I'm in, I almost find a comfort in life not being terribly long. I mean, I'm gonna see it through to the end, don't worry. But I'm not as afraid as I once was. But let's be real. When I die, I'll still be better than you. in fact, be more better than you because I know a man who is dead. He was better than you before, and you know who I'm talking to. You know who you are. And he's actually, channeling now, he's even more better than you now that he's dead than he was. And he wants to deliver a message which is fuck you. But also to you guys, it's I love you. He wants to say, I love you. And you're awesome. And still get to reading. You are missing this book. Um, yeah. So if you might distract me from my deep, dark pit of depression for a little while, I would appreciate that because I know which book is next after this month of Halloween. You guys already saw some of the costumes. Um, and we are over halfway through, just slightly. And I think you're gonna remember. I think it's gonna come right back to you. You know, like you know how you have to wait, like an end of season cliffhanger to the next season of a show. Like you used to have to wait from summer to fall. You didn't have to wait that long. It's only been a few weeks. I think it's gonna come back to you. So where did I leave off? She and I was afraid she wasn't gonna come in. I thought she was going to um forget, because I still had some stuff out there, like, blocking, and no, she just came right in, so that's nice. She remembers. Do you remember? Mm, I just said you remember. Get your ass up on the bed. So what are you doing? Mm. Pulling you guys up just a second. We at least ended it at the end of chapter 40, beginning of chapter 41, really. Um, so we start tonight on a new chapter, chapter 41, like I said. Um, Still pulling up. Got my coffee. Let me go with this phone. Now. There you are. Did I think Jerry? Yeah. Thank you, Jerry. What did you think of those? Were you? I wanted to ask you. Were you at a Spirit Halloween when you sent me that? Like you were in like a Halloween store? I was looking at some of the ones on the wall. No, I thought they were cute. Like if we're doing a couples theme though with the Austin Powers, I feel like you would have to be Fat Bastard, maybe, and I'm Austin, or I could be like, was it Elizabeth Hurley's character, and then you could be one of the fembots. You're too tall to be mini me. I could be unibrow, and you could be the cat. I don't know. I'll have to work on that. Elizabeth is not the sentimental type, but even so, She is about to find out if her ex-husband is dead. She knows or knew Douglas well enough to know he wouldn't have revealed the true location of the diamonds to anybody else. Whatever false trail he laid would have been a good one. No one else knows about Locker 531. That was a secret hidden in a hole in a tree above Cooper's Chase. If the diamonds are not in this locker, then Douglas has them. If the diamonds are there, that means Douglas hasn't been to collect them. And that means Douglas is dead. Quite the day she is having. I think, I mean, I think it's coming back to me too now that I don't know if Douglas is alive, but I think he likely is, and I definitely think that the girl is alive. Okay, I could be totally wrong, but um, I think the what was her name? Poppy? But we'll see. Because even though they saw the body, they were like, "Oh, but they could have not been the real body. You don't know who the coroner was, or something like that." So how do you know his was or hers too? Okay, if Douglas is alive, then he is on the run and very rich. And of course, if Douglas is alive, then he killed Poppy. He killed Poppy and he faked his own death with a corpse taken from goodness knows where. A fresh corpse, though, there was no hiding that. It wasn't like the corpse of Marcus Carmichael they had pulled from the Thames so many years ago. No one was checking Marcus Carmichael too closely. Everybody had their job to do, but Elizabeth had seen Douglas's body, seen it up close. It was very fresh indeed. So perhaps Douglas had killed two people. That's the only way he could have gotten away with it. So, in the grand scheme of things, Elizabeth is hoping that Douglas is dead. No offense meant, but she would rather her ex-husband was a dead thief than a living murderer. The minibus is full. Carlito, the driver, has a cigarette hanging out of his window. This is not a group who minds if you smoke, and in return, Carlito doesn't mind if you don't wear a seat belt. The whole scene might have been from the 1970s when, if you wanted to die of lung cancer or in a road accident, then that was your choice. No, the good old days. Joyce is quiet, which is unlike her. It's almost unnerving. At first, Elizabeth thought it was because of Poppy. Joyce and Poppy had bonded, that was for certain, or perhaps because of Siobhan being so close to a mother's grief. But I think Siobhan, who's supposed to be Poppy's mom, I think she's a phony too, but I don't know. Like, I think she's a fraud too. I because there has to be like a twist, and I feel like that's maybe the twist. But listen, but then Elizabeth realizes that the last time the two of them had been on this minibus together, Bernard had been in the back seat. Just before Joyce and Bernard had become close. Joyce misses them, although they never talk about him, just like they never talk about Stephen or Penny. In fact, what do she and Joyce talk about? The English countryside passes by outside the minibus window. What do you and I talk about, Joyce? Says Elizabeth. Joyce thinks. It's been mainly murder, hasn't it, since we met? Elizabeth nods. I suppose it has. What do you think we'll talk about when there are no murders? Well, we'll find out at some point, won't we? Joyce looks out of the window again. Elizabeth doesn't like seeing her friend unhappy. What do normal people say in these situations? Here goes nothing. Would you like to talk about Bernard? Joyce turns to look at her and gives her a tiny smile. No, thank you. Joyce returns to her view and, without turning, puts her hand on Elizabeth's. Would you like to talk about Stephen? Asked Joyce. No, thank you, says Elizabeth. Joyce gives her hand a squeeze and leaves it there. Elizabeth looks down at her friendship bracelet and a very ugly thing that means the world to her. Elizabeth's life has been one of classmates and cousins, of professors, of colleagues, and of husbands. She has always found friends harder. What did friends want from you? What did they expect you to do? Her great brain hadn't worked it out. Last night, awake with Stephen at around 4 a.m., he had been showing off about some mountain or other he had climbed when he was a young man, and she had then invented an even bigger mountain she had climbed without a single Sherpa, darling. And he then upped the ante and was climbing Everest without Sherpas or oxygen. And then she was climbing Everest every or carrying a grand piano, and the two of them were in fits of giggles. It was love, of course, but it was also friendship. Stephen was the first person she had ever met who refused to take her seriously. Joyce doesn't take her seriously. Ibrahim doesn't take her seriously. Ron doesn't take her seriously. They respect her, she thinks. They know they can rely on her. They take care of her, Shudder, but they refuse to take her seriously. Who knew that was the secret all along? See, that's the secret. None of you take me seriously. Now, she really thinks about it. Chris and Donna don't take her seriously either. First, Stephen, then the Thursday Murder Club, now Chris and Donna. Why this sudden wave of people who refuse to be taken in by her casual brilliance and brusque efficiency? She knows the answer, of course. After meeting Stephen, she took herself less seriously. The moment she had done that, a door was open, which true friends could walk through. And in they walked. She squeezes Joyce's hand back. You know, I would like to talk about Stephen. I just don't know yet. Joyce turns away from the window and smiles at her friend. Well, the kettle is always on at mine. The minibus pulls to a stop outside Ryman's, and everyone starts gathering their belongings. Carlito swivels himself in his chair. I see you back here in 3 hours. No shoplifting, no graffiti. Elizabeth stands, then ushers Joyce to the exit in front of her. As she passes, Joyce says, before we talk about your current husband, let's find out if your ex-husband is dead. Yes, let's, says Elizabeth. That's what friends were for. The station was a 10-minute walk from Ryman's down toward the seafront. As the shops peter out, Fairhaven gets a bit grittier. They pass by the end of the road full of lock-up garages, teenagers on bicycles, skidding up and down. Fairhaven in autumn is beginning to hunker down to prepare for winter. No day trippers, no tourists, everyone having to find different ways to make their money. Elizabeth knows that if you opened up all of those garages, you would find a thing or two. Oh, thank you, Ron. And your bear. I was thinking raccoon with the little ears. This, no, that's a bear, right? I hope. Should Elizabeth have told Sue Reardon about the letter? Well, yes, of course she should. That was a silly question, but Elizabeth wanted to be the one to open the locker. Sue would understand that. And if she didn't understand, then they would cross that bridge in time. Elizabeth suspected there would be few complaints if she handed Sue a bag of diamonds. As they approached the station, they passed Les Pot Noir, which used to be the Black Bridge. Ron's son, Jason, had told them many Tales of the Black Bridge. They haven't seen Jason for a while. He is dating Gordon Playfair's daughter, Karen, and is very happy by all accounts. The more love, the better, as far as Elizabeth is concerned these days. They reach Fairhaven Station. It is much as Joyce had described it. Morning rush hour has passed, but it is still lively. Everyone living their own story. Students with backpacks trying to find platforms, men in suits running for connections, preschoolers in pushchairs wailing for raisins, and standing, looking up at the station signs, a silly old spy and her friend looking for 20 million pounds worth of diamonds stolen from the New York Mafia. Elizabeth sees the arrow pointing to left luggage lockers. Next chapter. Oh, okay, I got it right. It's a bear. Chapter 42. Ron sits on the back seat of the taxi next to his grandson, Kendrick. He always asks for the same cabbie, Mark, because Mark supports West Ham and has a Vote Labour sticker in his back window. Ron has just picked up Kendrick from the station. Susie, his daughter, didn't stop because she was going on to Gatwick. Ron managed to ask her how she was, but all she managed was, "Don't worry about me," before the train started moving again, and he and Kendrick waved it into the distance. Kendrick is currently hugging his backpack and looking out of each window in turn, excited at every new house, every new road sign, and every new tree. "Granddad, a shop," says Kendrick. Ron looks. "You're right there, Kenny. Call me Kendrick, Granddad," says Kendrick. "I've always called you Kenny," says Ron. "It's quicker." It's the same, Granddad. Nah, it's quicker," says Ron. "It's not, really, is it?" asks Kendrick, straining forward against his seatbelt to get the taxi driver's attention. "Not my business," says Mark, "but yeah, it's got the same number of syllables, I'm afraid, Ron. Can't even get back up from a West Ham fan. People were so soft around kids." "I'll call you Ken then. That's quicker. Just call me Kendrick, maybe. Daddy calls me Ken." "Kendrick it is then," says Ron. Ron's son-in-law was not his favorite person in the world. Safe to say, Danny didn't have a Vote Labour sticker on the back of his BMW. "Can I ask you a question, Granddad?" "Fire away," says Ron. "Do you have a smart TV?" No, I don't," says Ron. "I doubt it. I only just got a microwave." "You do, Ron," says Mark over his shoulder. "Your boy Jason brought it round for you. A friend of his found 100 of them in a field. You were trying to sell me one." "I do have a smart TV, then," says Ron to Kendrick. "Is that good?" "It's really good, I think," confirms Kendrick. "I've got my iPad, and I know I'm lucky because not everyone has one, but with a smart TV, we can all play Minecraft together. Do you know Minecraft, Granddad? Also, does anyone have cats where you live?" "There's a few cats who pop in." "Oh, I'm really happy about that. One of them killed a squirrel the other day and tried to bring it through my patio doors." "Oh, no." "Yep, I wasn't having any of it. He was out on his ear." Kendrick thinks about this for a while, but that's just cats. They're not trying to be mean. It's sad for the squirrel, though. I hope I can see squirrels. "So, do you know Minecraft?" "Afraid not, son." "That's okay because you can learn. You get to build new worlds and create all sorts of things. And sometimes you can talk to people, but it's important to be careful. I built a castle and it had a moat, but it didn't have a drawbridge, so no one could get in, but also no one could get out. So it was good and bad. Uncle Ibrahim can play too." Did any of you ever play Minecraft? And if so, can you make me? And if so, does it have pantyhose or can you make Minecraft pantyhose? And if not, then fuck Minecraft. Uncle Ibrahim's not feeling too clever at the moment, says Ron. Go easy on him. Oh, that's fine. He can still play, though, says Kendrick. What would you like to build, Granddad? What is it? Use your imagination. Or are there instructions? Asks Ron. Imagination, says Kendrick, throwing his hands into the air. Well, I don't know about imagination. Is there fighting? You can fight, but I don't like to. I'd build a unicorn farm, Kendrick, says Mark from the front seat, but with outbuildings that could bring in commercial revenue, like a farm shop. Yeah, that's so good, says Kendrick. I'll do that. And maybe slides? Slides and ice cream, perhaps, says Mark, and Kendrick nods vigorously. Why don't you and Uncle Ibrahim build it and I'll just watch, says Ron. Kendrick nods again. It's really fun to watch too. And then you can say if you see a cat and we can stop. Mark flicks on the indicator and turns left into the drive for Cooper's Chase. Here we are, Kenny, home sweet home. Kendrick looks up at Ron, one eyebrow raised, legs jiggling. He tries to look out of all the windows at once. Do you remember Joyce? Asks Ron. Uh-huh, says Kendrick. She's nice. She says she has made you a cake if you want to come and see her. Just for me, says Kendrick. So she says. Kendrick nods his approval. You can all have some, though. I only need one bit. Mark, you can have some too. Love to, but I've got a pickup in Tonbridge, says Mark. Kendrick thinks. Then he looks at his granddad. I haven't got a present for Joyce, though, so I'll do a drawing. Have you got paper? They've got paper at the shop, says Ron. We'll go to the shop, says Kendrick. Speed bump, says Mark, and the car bunny hops in the air. Kendrick reaches up and puts his arms around Ron's neck. Granddad, we're going to have a fun time. He starts counting things off on his fingers. We can go swimming. We can go for a walk. We can see Joyce. We can say hello to everyone. He points out the window. Granddad, the llamas. Ron looks at the llamas. Ian Bentham's idea when he ran the place, not his cup of tea, but seen through a child's eyes, not without charm. If you ended up living somewhere with llamas, then perhaps not all is bad. Kendrick settles back into his seat and shakes his head in wonder. Oh, Granddad, you're lucky to live here. Ron puts an arm around his grandson and looks out of the window. You're not wrong there, kid, he thinks. Next chapter. We 2K grams have been really. um, I've never seen a llama either, but I bet they smell bad and they spit. I could be wrong, but I don't know. If you have a pet llama, let me know. And let me know if you wash it every day. 43. The left luggage office is attended by a bored-looking teenage girl wearing headphones. Elizabeth holds up her key as she and Joyce walk past, and the girl nods them through. I don't think you should be allowed to wear headphones at work, says Elizabeth. You miss everything. Joyce nods. Lovely hair, though. There are 5 rows of lockers, gray metal frames, and chip blue doors, stacked 3 lockers high from floor to ceiling. Elizabeth leads Joyce to the 5th row, and they begin the walk down it. I hope it's a middle one, says Joyce. No bending or reaching. Elizabeth stops. You're in luck, Joyce. Middle locker 531. They both look at the locker. 531 is written in sloping white numerals against the blue door. Elizabeth looks at the key. Small and flimsy. Anyone could break in. The girl on reception wouldn't exactly stop you. What a place to hide 20 million pounds. Well, here goes nothing, says Elizabeth, and slides the key into the lock. At first, it meets resistance, so Elizabeth pulls it out and tries again. But there is resistance once again, and she frowns. She lowers her eye to the keyhole. Lock must be damaged. Hairpin, Joyce. Joyce searches through her bag and pulls out a hairpin. Yup, you can use that too to zip up your boots. A bobby pin will work too. Yeah. You preferably like a big one, like a metal one, not a plastic. Elizabeth inserts it into the keyhole very gently, pushing, then twisting, then pushing again. The metal door swings open to reveal the fate of Douglas Middlemiss. To reveal nothing. Well, not nothing exactly. Three gray walls and a discarded crisp packet. Diamonds are gone. Elizabeth looks at Joyce. Joyce looks at Elizabeth. They are both quiet for a moment. It's empty, says Joyce. Up to a point, says Elizabeth, and pulls out the crisp packet. Is this good news or bad news, says Joyce. Elizabeth stays silent for a moment, then nods herself back into action. Well, it's news, certainly, says Elizabeth. Time will tell whether it's good or bad. Joyce, put the crisp packet in your bag. Now, when they say crisp packet, do they mean like, is that like a British way of saying like potato chips or something? Like what packet? Like, I don't get it. Or is it, I think, I don't know. Or would you say package? Anyway. Elizabeth shuts the locker door and inserts the hairpin once again. She twists it until the door locks with an unconvincing click. Joyce leads the way out, and they nod to the girl on reception as they leave. Excuse me, says the girl. Elizabeth and Joyce turn back, and the girl takes her headphones off. A couple of things. First off, there's nothing on these headphones. I only wear them because it stops the manager of Costa coming over and chatting me up if he thinks I'm listening to something. Well, I apologize, says Elizabeth. What's the second thing? The girl looks at Joyce. I just wanted to say thank you for being nice about my hair. It's my first post-breakup haircut, so you've made my day. Joyce smiles. Plenty more fish in the barrel, dear. You take my word for it. The girl smiles back and makes a hand gesture toward the lockers. I hope you found what you wanted today. Yes and no, apparently, says Joyce, and the girl slides her headphones back on. As they leave the station, Elizabeth sends a text, then plunges into the warren of alleyways behind the station. Joyce has no idea where they are walking now, but they are certainly walking somewhere as Elizabeth leads her expertly through the back streets of Fairhaven. They take a left and then start down a small footpath. Are they headed for the police station? Why would they be headed for the police station? To give Chris and Donna a crisp packet? Joyce rarely questions Elizabeth, but one of these days she will lose it, surely. Perhaps today is that day. They are crossing a small park now. There are children on a climbing frame trying to get the attention of parents looking at mobile phones. They are definitely going to the police station. Joyce is trying to remember if there are toilets there. Surely there must be, but what if they're just for prisoners? Soon, Joyce sees the police station in the distance, and sitting on the stone steps outside is Donna. That must have been who the text was for. Donna pushes herself up as Elizabeth and Joyce approach. Donna gives Joyce a hug. Elizabeth waves a hug away. Hello, dear. No time for hugs. Did you bring the light? Donna holds up something that looks like a small pen. What's that for? Asked Joyce. Can you take the crisp packet out of your bag? Asked Elizabeth. Joyce knew it. There was no way Elizabeth was making her put an old crisp packet in her bag without a good reason. Joyce takes out the packet and hands it to Elizabeth. Elizabeth tears down the side of the packet, exposing the foil inside. She then flattens the foil on one of the steps. Joyce cocks her head, so Elizabeth explains. Tradecraft, Joyce. If Douglas had wanted the locker to be empty, it would have been empty, but it wasn't. Donna shows Joyce the light. This is an infrared light. I used to use it when we found stolen bikes. Sometimes the owner would have invisibly marked them. And of course, Donna doesn't have to track down stolen bikes anymore, thanks to us, says Elizabeth. For which I thank you many times, says Donna. Now she investigates murder, says Elizabeth. Elizabeth, you think perhaps it's a sign of my gratitude that I'm standing on the steps of the police station about to help two old ladies shine an infrared light at a crisp packet? You know we appreciate you, dear. Now let's get to it. Old ladies, giggles Joyce. I always find that funny. Donna kneels and switches on the light. Joyce thinks about kneeling, but really kneeling over the age of 65 is a pipe dream, so she sits on the step above instead. Elizabeth kneels. Is there nothing she can't do? I remember when my mom explained to me what pipe dream meant, and it's not what I thought that it meant. Of course, I was a child and I still didn't understand even her explanation until later. But it's a strange expression, really. Wish you could message me back. What did you message me? I'll try to remember what you messaged. I don't really recall your name in a message. Thank you again. Wink. The red light plays across the foil, and Joyce sees the letters appear. There is clearly a sentence written on it. What now, Douglas? Says Elizabeth with a sigh. Donna moves the light to the top right corner of the foil and starts to read words as she reveals them. Elizabeth, darling, dot, dot, dot. Elizabeth mutters, oh, darling, you. Elizabeth, darling, we both know that things are never in the first place you look. This was just an extra layer of security in case somebody else found the letter, but you know where the diamonds are, don't you? If you really think about it. Donna stops reading and looks up at Elizabeth. That's it? Asks Elizabeth. Well, then it says, from your ever loving Douglas and 3 kisses, says Donna, but I didn't want to hear the tut if I read that out. Elizabeth gets back on her feet and reaches out a hand to help Joyce up too. So we still don't know if he's alive or dead, says Joyce. Afraid not, says Elizabeth. But he says you know where the diamonds are, says Donna. Well, if he says I know, then I know, says Elizabeth. I have some thinking to do. Thinking of thinking, something has been bothering Joyce, but she hasn't mentioned it. She had never been a spy, so what did she know? It was, but the sun was out, and she was with two of her favorite people, so where was the harm? Didn't you think it was strange that the lock was damaged, she says. Strange how, says Elizabeth. Well, he gave you the key, so presumably he was working when he locked it up, or it was working, and no one would have been there since. So, how did the lock get damaged? That's a good question, says Donna, and Joyce beams. It's a very good question, says Elizabeth. Even better, what a lovely day Joyce is having. Donna, there was CCTV in the locker room, says Elizabeth. You don't think you could possibly get hold of it just for the last week? I could get hold of it, but I'm not going to sit through a week of CCTV footage just because Joyce has a hunch. No offense, Joyce. Oh, I never take offense, says Joyce. Such an effort. If you can get it, Donna. Ibrahim has plenty of time on his hands at the moment, and he loves to be useful. Okay, I'll see what I can do, says Donna. But if there's any way we can get involved in the case, then you promise you'll let us. I think that sounds fair, says Elizabeth. Any more news of Ryan Baird? Court case next week. I'll let you know. Are you working on anything fun? Staking out a local drug dealer, Connie Johnson. Nasty piece of work. They often are, says Elizabeth, and I believe we are seeing you later. Looking forward to it very much, says Donna. Any intelligence you can give us on Patrice before we meet her? Asked Elizabeth. She's okay, says Donna. Bit mumsy for me. Joyce looks at her watch. They still have an hour before they have to meet the minibus. Time for an almond flour brownie and a cup of mint tea. Today was one of those days when everything just was falling into place. Perhaps you should buy a scratch card. Chapter 44. They were both shot in the face, so it was a terrible mess, says Joyce. More Battenberg, Patrice? Nowhere left to put it, says Patrice, holding up her oh, was Patrice um the cop's girlfriend who is also Donna's mother? I think so. I'm half Battenberg already. Murder suicide? Asked Chris, or double murder? Double murder, says Ron. No gun left lying around, eh? Some geezers walked in. Or woman, says Donna, and gets an approving nod from her mum. Some geezer or some bear, granted, has just walked in and opened up. Kablamo, heads blown off. You wouldn't wish it on anyone. More women are murdering people these days, says Joyce. If you ignore the context, it is a real sign of progress. What? No. Donna tucks her feet up beneath her. How is all this going, then? Upside? The look on Elizabeth's face when she realized that Patrice and Donna were mother and daughter, that she had managed to keep it secret. Elizabeth hated other people having secrets. Downside, having to watch her mum and Chris putting on a show for the Thursday Murder Club, sitting knees together on the sofa, touching, kissing, cooing. Donna wants them both to be happy, but she doesn't need to watch them being happy. She doesn't even particularly want to hear about them being happy. So long as they are happy, that's all she needs. And they do look happy, don't they? What if this relationship was actually going to work? What if Donna had performed a miracle? And they tried before. They tried here, asked Chris. Someone tried to kill Douglas, yes, says Elizabeth. Made a rotten job of it, too. And Poppy took his head off. May she rest in peace. I was hoping you and Donna might come and investigate, says Joyce, but they sent Sue and Lance from MI5 instead. Not that we would ever reveal the names of MI5 officers, Joyce. Only telling Chris, says Joyce. Don't be a fusspot. I'll just check the Official Secrets Act, Joyce, and see if that's in there. Anyway, they're not a patch on you two, says Joyce. Sue is a bit of a cold fish, like Elizabeth, but without the warmth. But you can see she respects her. Senior, were you, Lizzie? Asked Ron. And then there was Lance, balding but quite handsome, and there was no wedding ring. Anyway, I could get his number for you, Donna. A date with a balding spy? Well, that sounds a treat, says Donna. She had been on a date on Monday. His profile had said he was a diving instructor, which had sounded suitably alpha to Donna. Of course, she had misread the profile and so had ended up having very disappointing sex with a driving instructor. She had also made the mistake of telling her mum and Chris about it, and they had a field day. Mum had made a number of jokes about his gear stick, and Chris had said, did he look in his mirror before pulling out? Donna downs her glass of wine. Listen, I would love to be with a bald driving instructor. So, any out there interested? Um, my DMs are open. Would you like to see photographs of the crime scene? Asked Elizabeth. Yes, please, says Chris. I'll need something in return, says Elizabeth. Here we go, says Chris. We just want to know the following. One, how long have you two been dating? None of your business, says Chris. These photos are from every possible angle. Entry wounds, exit wounds, items disturbed in the room. 6 weeks, says. I have to make sure this is pulled down because it's a loose this top. That's okay. You stay put. These photos are from every possible angle. Entry wounds, exit wounds, items disturbed in the room. 6 weeks, says Patrice. Thank you, says Elizabeth. 2, where do you think this is going to go? I think I speak for all of us when I say that you seem an adorable couple. Donna mimes being sick as Joyce and Ron nod. Patrice smiles. Well, we'll take it one day at a time, shall we? I enjoyed yesterday, I'm having fun today, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow. She had given the same answer to Ibrahim when she, Donna, and Chris had visited him in his sick bed before coming over. He was intently playing Minecraft with Ron's grandson, but had looked up long enough to say, theoretically, I know a thing or two about love, and that sounds like a very healthy answer. Any gossip from you four in return? Asked Donna, keen to change the subject. Apart from 3 people being shot, well, Joyce and Gordon Playfair around for lunch one day last week, says Elizabeth. He was rebooting my Wi-Fi, says Joyce. I'll bet he was, says Ron. Another glass of wine down now. Photos? Reminds Chris. Elizabeth holds up her finger, then fishes into her bag. I lost my phone briefly, but Bogdan found it for me. She scrolls through her photos and passes it to Chris. Here, you two lovebirds can take a look. Chris holds the phone in front of him and angles it slightly toward Patrice. He flicks through a couple of photos, pinching the screen occasionally to enlarge details. Professional job, says Patrice. I was about to say that, says Chris. Great minds think alike, says Patrice, and kisses Chris on the lips. Donna rolls her eyes and mutters, get a room. Loud enough for only Joyce to hear. Joyce giggles. Donna gives her a discreet high five. What a mess, though, says Chris. Let me look, says Donna, and holds out her hand. She was always impatient, says Patrice. Wouldn't ride a bike with stabilizers, wouldn't wear armbands to the pool. We were in and out of A&E. Donna takes the phone from her mom and begins to scroll through the photos. As she stares at the 2 bodies, the young woman and the old man, she zooms out of the conversation around her. Joyce is asking about Donna as a child. Ron is asking for more wine. Her mom is asking about Gordon Playfair. Was all as it seemed in these photos. Something wasn't right. On her date with the driving instructor, he had shown her a tattoo in Chinese script on his upper arm, and she had asked him what it meant. He had no idea. He had just liked the look of it. To try and make a conversation before they had sex again, and she could finally ask him to leave. Donna had taken a photo of it and put it through a translation app. It turns out that the tattoo read, "Sample text, your message goes here." Sometimes things were just for show. They only looked right until you changed the way you looked at them. Donna puts down the phone. "I know you'll have thought about this, but are you absolutely sure this is Douglas?" "Yes," says Elizabeth, "I have thought of that. Now, where are we with the CCTV?" "What CCTV?" asked Chris. "There is a buzz. Somebody is at Joyce's door." "Oh, thank you, Mike." Chapter 45. "He called it ham-fisted," says Stephen. "Ham-fisted?" "I know, dear," says Elizabeth. "It is 2:30 a.m. Many years ago, a man named Julian Lambert had written a review of one of Stephen's books, Iran, Art After the Revolution. It had not been a good review, mean-spirited. They were rivals. I'll knock his block off. How dare he?" Stephen slaps both palms against the hallway door with the same force. Stephen is a big man still. Elizabeth has never had to fear his physicality. Might she have to one day? Every day he slips farther away. "Don't give him the satisfaction, darling," says Elizabeth. "Julian Lambert died in 2003. A hose pipe fitted to his car exhaust in the garage of the A house he was renting after an expensive and self-inflicted divorce." "I'll give him more than satisfaction," says Stephen. "Let's see how clever he looks on his arse, shall we?" "Where are my keys?" "Keys to what?" wonders Elizabeth. "Car keys long gone. Keys to the apartment hidden many months ago. Stephen no longer has any keys. Had to calm him down, though. I've just seen a rather wonderful, or just had a rather wonderful idea," says Elizabeth. "I wondered if you'd like to hear it before you head off." "Don't talk me out of this, Elizabeth. Lambert has had this coming a long time." Stephen is checking through drawers. Damn and blast, where are my keys? Stephen has never been a vengeful man or an angry man, never been ruled by his pride, never had those traits you see in weak men, never felt the need to prove himself at the expense of others. "I wouldn't talk you out of anything," says Elizabeth. "I agree with you entirely. Anyone who insults your book insults you, and anyone who insults you insults me." "Thank you, darling," says Stephen. "It's just I was thinking you might take Bogdan with you. He could drive you up." Stephen considers this for a moment, then nods. He'd scare the living daylights out of Lambert, wouldn't he? Elizabeth takes out her phone. "I'll ring him, dear." It's nearly 2:30 in the morning, but Bogdan answers on the first ring. "Hello, Elizabeth." Night owl like myself." Hello, Bogdan. Stephen wanted to ask you a favor." "Okay, hand me over," says Bogdan. Elizabeth would love to know why Bogdan is wide awake at 2:30 in the morning. He is infuriatingly opaque. She hadn't even heard any background noises, despite her well-trained ear. "Bogdan, is this you?" says Stephen. "Yes, Stephen, what can I do?" says Bogdan. "There's a fella. He's in Kensington or Camden, and we need to duff him up." "Okay, now?" "Soon as you can get here." "Okay, I'll be maybe an hour." "Get some rest before, okay? Put me back to Elizabeth." Stephen hands the phone back to Elizabeth. "Thank you, Bogdan," says Elizabeth. "You are a good friend." You are too, says Bogdan. I hope you get him back to sleep. Thank you, darling. What are you up to? Bits and bobs, says Bogdan. What's that I can hear in the background? She asks. I don't think you can hear anything, says Bogdan. Elizabeth rolls her eyes. Night night, Bogdan. Elizabeth leads Stephen back to bed. He's already much calmer. Bogdan does that to people. She can't persuade him to undress, but she persuades Stephen to get under the covers beside her. You found out who shot your friends yet? He asks. Elizabeth seizes on the change of subject. Not yet, but I will. She knows she already has the clue, but what is it? Where is it? Of course you will, says Stephen. You always get your man. Elizabeth smiles and kisses her husband on the cheek. I certainly got you, didn't I? No, no, I got you, darling, says Stephen. Had it planned from the moment I saw you. They had met when Stephen had handed her a drop glove outside a bookshop. In an act of tactical chivalry, Elizabeth has never told him that actually she had spotted him from a distance earlier that day, sitting on a bench looking like quite the most beautiful man she had ever seen. As she walked past the bench, she had dropped the glove on purpose. He had picked it up as she knew he would. Then the drop glove, a romantic cliche no man could resist. So a man, even when they didn't know it. You should always have a plan. He left me a note telling me where to find the diamonds. Joyce and I followed the trail, and it just led to another note telling me I knew where the diamonds were if only I were to think about it. Telling you to pull your finger out. That's the long and short of it. How did you find the note? We were by a tree up in the woods, and he talked about the dead letter drops. Bit obvious for you, says Stephen. Elizabeth laughs. In retrospect, he say anything else? Anything in the note? Shall I get it? Says Elizabeth. We can look through it together. Yes, that's fun. Shall I put the kettle on? No, you stay where you are, darling. Perhaps slip your shoes and jacket off, though. Make yourself comfortable. Right you are, says Stephen. Elizabeth swings her legs out of bed and walks over to her desk. Stephen's shoes fly across the room as she retrieves the photocopy of the letter and gets back into bed. She smiles at her husband, still wearing his tie. They read through the letter together, Stephen making the occasional comment of Northumbria, remember that weekend in Rye, Mafia of all things, and my love always. Well, you lost out there, Chief. Oh, thank you, Jerry. I got you, babe. Perhaps the clue is hidden in plain sight, Elizabeth thinks. There was a very simple technique she and Douglas would use for fun, spelling out a message with the first letter of successive sentences. They would write huge, sweeping love letters to each other, where the initial letters would spell out, Don't forget, we need eggs and toilet roll. Would Douglas try so simple a trick here, for old time's sake? Surely not. I'd say they are at the cottage in Rye, darling, says Stephen. Wouldn't you? Funny to mention it otherwise. They are not at the cottage in Rye. It was the first thing Elizabeth checked. It was bulldozed in 1995 to make way for a bypass. Elizabeth picks up the letter again and looks to see if Douglas has left her a message in the first letters of each sentence. She scans the opening paragraphs. Never doubted you for a moment, you clever thing. I knew you'd find the letter. Cards on the table. I should probably apologize for stealing the diamonds and starting this whole parade. Everyone has their price, and it turns out that mine is 20 million pounds. 20 million, darling. Just sitting there, and me, a dinosaur nearing retirement. Resistance was futile. You understand, don't you? Dinosaur that I am, I still have a few tricks left in me. Elderly as I am, I still have a few years left in me, too. A few years I intend not to waste. Retirement is not for me. Elizabeth smiles. You win that one, Douglas. Sometimes, if she thought really hard, she could remember why she'd married him. Darling, says Stephen, do you remember Julian Lambert? He just popped into my head. Never heard of him, says Elizabeth. I might put in a lunch with him. He just had the most awful divorce. Be nice to check if he's all right. Oh, stay with me, Stephen, thinks Elizabeth. Stay with me, stay with me, stay with me. Chapter 46. Joyce. I am typing quietly because I have someone in the spare room. The spare room is always made up in case Joanna comes to stay unexpectedly, which happens sometimes, if not often, since her company took over the development on top of the hill. She has popped down a few times. She took me up to the site last time, and I had to wear a hard hat. I put it on and knocked on Elizabeth's door so she could have a good laugh at me, but she wasn't in, so I knocked on Ron's door, and fortunately he was there. Joanna took a picture of me with Ron. I'm wearing my hard hat, and he's pointing at it. It's on Facebook somewhere if you'd like to see it. I should put it on Instagram. The pillow in the spare room is one that Joanna bought me for Christmas because she said my pillows are too thin. She actually said that one pillow was too thin, but two pillows were too thick. So as if that had been my plan all along. As if I'd gone to British home stores and sorted through pillows until I found the perfect ones to annoy my daughter. There was also a white company candle in there, and that she bought me for Mother's Day. If I fill the spare room full of things she bought me that then she can't complain. That's the theory at least, but she always finds something. Last time she was down, she told me off for having the slats of my Venetian blinds angled upward instead of downwards. That was the straw that broke the camel's hump for me. I said to her, I'd wanted to say it for ages, that I felt I could never get anything quite right. And she said, well, she felt the same. And I said, that's nonsense, and asked her what she meant. And she said, well, Mom, I'm always too fat or too thin or with the wrong man or just split up with the right man, or I should wear my hair up or down, or I work too hard, or I have too many holidays, or I shouldn't have painted my kitchen that color. That actually struck a nerve. I can be a bit like that, but I decided to dig in, so I stood my ground and said, Joanna, that's because I care. That's because I love you. And she said, so you show me you love me by telling me I'm too fat. And I said, well, I know you're happier when you're not overweight. And so I just gently tell you. And she said, perhaps she was well aware when she was overweight, and perhaps her mom pointing out the obvious made her unhappy, which was also true. So I said, well, I don't see you often enough, so I have to say everything all at once. And she said, well, is that what this is all about? That I don't see you often enough? And by that stage, we were both in an argument we had no way out of. So I told her that I loved her unconditionally, and she said, well, of course I loved her unconditionally. I was culturally hardwired to love her unconditionally, but that son liked her. And I said, darling, I do like you. You don't like me. My life is too small for you. I remind you of the things you've had to change to be a success. And she said, oh, so I'm a fraud. Is that it? And I said, not at all. I was very proud of her. And she looked at me and she said she was proud of me too. And I asked what for. And she said, I was kind and wise and brave. And I said she was clever and beautiful and had achieved things I would never be capable of. And we both started crying, and then we hugged, and I told her I loved her, and she told me she loved me, and we wiped our eyes and dusted ourselves down, and then she pulled the cord on the Venetian blind so the slats angled downward, and we went and made a cup of tea. I am glad I had a daughter instead of a son, though. At least I see her. So we met Chris's girlfriend this evening. She is Donna's mom, if you can believe that. Anyway, she's lovely, as you might expect, and a teacher, so she's on half term. I have high hopes, but then I'm a romantic, and I always have high hopes. It's much more fun that way. We were all chatting about Douglas and Poppy's deaths. Donna agrees with Elizabeth. Are we absolutely sure the body was really Douglas? I mean, I was there and I saw him, and I would swear it was, but it is an interesting question. Unfortunately, it was a question that will have to wait for another day, as at that moment my door buzzer went, and it was Poppy's mum, Siobhan. She had been in Godalming snap, I told her, and I had identified Poppy's body, which doesn't really bear thinking about. She has been there for 2 days, talking to funeral directors and HR people and lawyers, all quite complicated, and they were going to drive her home, but she asked to come here instead. I think that because Poppy had given me her number, she knows that Poppy trusted us, and perhaps she wanted to talk to someone who Poppy trusted. She had spent a lot of time with Sue Reardon and Lance James, and perhaps she had questions that they couldn't answer, or perhaps she didn't believe their answers. You could tell she was shattered, so we agreed to reconvene in the morning. She got a hug and kind words from everyone while I made up a hot water bottle. I can hear her tossing and turning. I don't expect she will sleep well. I forgot to ask her what she likes for breakfast, so I will head up to the shop first thing and get everything just in case. Speaking of half term, Ron's grandson is with us for a few days. Ron's daughter Susie works in travel and is going to a conference in the Caribbean. If you can have a conference in the Caribbean, I don't trust that woman, that Siobhan. We'll see. Her husband Danny, he takes offense if you say Daniel, is going with her, taking a break from his busy job of no one quite knows what. He wears a suit, but not tie, if that's a clue. Ron jumped at the chance of some time with Kendrick. When we last saw him, he was delightful, so one hopes he still will be. It's round about 12 that the charm wears off with boys, though most of them get it back sooner or later. Chapter 47. Mm, I don't think the charm wears off. Y'all stay boys forever. Uncle Ibrahim, what's better, a monkey or a penguin? A penguin, says Ibrahim, and pats the seat next to the bed. Hendrik sits down. Oh, okay. Granddad didn't know. Why is a penguin better than a monkey? Ibrahim puts his paper down. Kendrick, do you know why I like you? Kendrick shakes his head. I don't even know at all. You ask very good questions. Not many people do. Why don't they? Asked Kendrick. Well, there you go again, says Ibrahim. Now, penguins are better than monkeys because penguin is a very specific term and monkey is very unspecific. If we say monkey, then different people see different things, maybe a mandrill, maybe a little marmoset. Whereas if you say penguin, then we all picture the same thing. Words are very important. Most people don't know that. And the more specific a word is, the better it is. But is an actual penguin better than an actual monkey? Abraham thinks no animal is better than any other animal. We are all just a collection of atoms smashed together, even people, even trees. Even tigers? Even tigers. Kendrick blows out his cheeks. Even hippos? Ibrahim nods. He goes back to his crossword. What are you doing? Asks Kendrick, hopping. Is it a puzzle? A crossword puzzle, says Ibrahim. Is it boring or interesting? A bit of both, says Ibrahim. That's why I like it. Ron stands and stretches. I'm just going to nip down to the shop. Ibrahim, would you like an ice cream? No, thank you, Ron, says Ibrahim. No one wants an ice cream. Righty-ho, says Ron and turns to go. Kendrick clamps his lips together and lets out a small noise. Ron turns back. You all right there, Kendrick? Kendrick keeps his lips together and murmurs an uncertain, mm-hmm. Nothing you want? Some eggs? Washing up brush? Toilet cleaner? Sardines? Kendrick shakes his head. You sure? I'm going to the shop anyway. Bottle of whiskey, a cabbage. I can get you a cabbage if you want. Kendrick looks down. No, thank you, Granddad. Ron smiles and picks his grandson up. Maybe an ice cream, though. Kendrick looks at him. Really? You're on holiday, Kenny. It ain't a holiday without an ice cream. Were you just teasing? I was just teasing. Could I get a twister? I had one when I stayed at Granddad Keith's. Granddad Keith, that old fraud. You don't buy a house that big from selling used cars and a mid-wall fan, too. Also, when had Kendrick stayed at Granddad Keith's? Susie had kept that quiet. Something wasn't right with Susie and Danny. I'll tell you what, you can have two, says Ron, and puts Kendrick down as he wiggles with delight. I have never had two twisters before. Out of the window, Ron sees Joyce walking with Siobhan. Poor Poppy's mum. She turned up last night. Ron knows he should be feeling nothing but sympathy for Siobhan, but really he's thinking, what a good-looking woman she is. Give it a week, though, he thinks. He really wouldn't mind chancing his arm. After the funeral, maybe? He leaves Kendrick with Ibrahim, both happy, as he slips on his coat. He can still hear Ibrahim. What's another word for parallelogram? 7 letters. I don't think there is another word, says Kendrick. Maybe you're right, says Ibrahim. Ron opens the front door and smiles. How did he end up with a grandson and a best mate like these two? Lucky fella. Chapter 48. I'm a lucky fella. I just go on. Battle of the Grandfathers. Chapter 48. Patrice left this morning. There was a cab to the station. There were tears, even the odd one or two from her. The apartment feels very empty, and Chris feels empty too. Elizabeth and the gang had liked Patrice. On their way out, Joyce had whispered, Oh, Chris, she's a dream. And Ron had given him a thumbs up and said, Give her one for me, son. Chris is hungry. Earlier this week, he had been chopping up peppers, just like he had seen people doing on MasterChef. He had a red chili, a green chili, and a yellow chili. He always known that you can buy them in packets of 3 from the supermarket. He has walked past them thousands of times in his life, mocking them with their healthiness as he made his way to the pies and pasta aisle. He's back in work tomorrow, trying to catch Connie Johnson. There's a team down from London to help out. Chris has always fantasized about being the sort of man who might buy the red, yellow, and green peppers. The sort of man who would buy broccoli or ginger or beetroot out of choice. To Chris, the fruits and veg aisle at the supermarket was where he bought bananas and occasionally a bag of spinach to put at the top of his basket in case he bumped into anyone he knew. Oh, smart. I would do that, but I don't know anyone where I live, so no fear of that. I don't have a basket, I have a cart. People always look into your basket, don't they? Chris wanted to pretend he stopped and ate like a grown man, slipped the Kit Kats under the spinach, and no one's any the wiser. Chris thinks back to the day a cashier in Tesco's was scanning his shopping as he swiped through the chocolate, the crisps, the Diet Coke, the sausage rolls. She had looked up with a kind smile and said, "What is it, dear? A child's birthday party?" Chris had used self-service checkouts ever since he and Patrice had gone food shopping. Patrice asked him if he ever cooked stir fries, and Chris had lied and said that he did, and Patrice said she hadn't seen a wok anywhere. So Chris had admitted that no, he didn't actually cook stir fries, but he had always wanted to. They went to the market, not the supermarket, but the actual market, and they bought a bit of this and a bit of that, as Patrice asked a man in an apron where his raspberries were from. Chris felt like a proper human being. It was like they were a couple from an advert. Chris kept hoping people would see him. "What's this? Oh, it's just me and my girlfriend buying bean sprouts." This place was empty without Patrice, without her falling asleep on the floor in the living room while doing an online yoga class or on her laptop. It was all very good in theory to have a girlfriend who did online yoga classes, but even better to have a girlfriend who was happy to have a nap in the afternoon. Chris hadn't wanted this week to end. On Monday, Patrice will be back to school in South London. They'll be back to Skype calls and watching the same TV shows in different rooms. His heart sinks, though, at the thought of the lockup and the thought of surveillance food. Would he go back to his old ways the moment Patrice was gone? He thinks back to last night. Chris had circled coconut oil into a wok. They had to buy coconut oil and they'd have to buy the wok. And once he had completely come clean to Patrice, they had to buy the chopping board, the sharp knives, and the sea salt and black pepper, too. What a penny ride that shopping trip had been. A 51-year-old man tossing peppers and bean sprouts and spring onions and tofu, which was a whole other story, into a wok and hearing these sizzle so familiar from television, he had started to cry. Where had that come from? From the years of late night takeaways by himself, the snacks, the numbing release of empty fat and carbs, the long nights, the long years on his sofa with no one to put his arms around. And now this, the colors, the smells, the sheer everyday normality of it. Chris hadn't looked after anyone in a long time, and that included himself. He let the tears run down through the steam and into the pen. As the first tears sizzled, arms had encircled his waist. Patrice had woken up, had he had turned, and she tilted her head up to kiss him. "You have to stand back from the walk if you don't want your eyes to water." "Good tip," said Chris. "How was yoga? You get it all done?" Says Patrice. "Intense, though." She had pushed herself up and sat on the worktop. Chris was aware that he had seen women blithely sitting on worktops in films, but he didn't think it was ever something that would happen in his own kitchen. This lovely, sleepy woman perched on his worktop, happy to be there. "So, have you fallen in love with me yet?" Patrice had said with a laugh. "Of course," said Chris, smiling, and gave her a kiss. "I should hope so too," said Patrice, and hopped down from the worktop. "I'll get bowls." Chris had turned back to the walk. He angled his head away from Patrice, now busily rooting through a cupboard. The tears came again, then heavier this time. What was wrong with him? It was just a stir fry. It was just a stir fry and a woman sitting on a worktop. It was just then he understood. It doesn't matter which it only mattered that in the instant he knew that yes, he had fallen in love with her. Oh God, yes. Oh God, no. At some point, would he really have to tell Patrice? Perhaps she could just work it out. Chris had wiped a tear from the corner of his eye. The pain from a stray chili flake on his finger was immediate, and all thoughts of love and happiness and shame and Vulnerability and fear and excitement had to take second place for that moment. At least he didn't have to explain why he was crying anymore. Being healthy was easy when Patrice was here. It seemed so simple. Eat fruit, drink slime lime tonic, don't have a KFC. But the evenings were longer when she wasn't here, and Chris Hudson wasn't about to steam broccoli for himself. That seemed weird. Was it okay to have a biscuit? If it was just one biscuit, perhaps he could have some chocolate if it was just that dark chocolate you could buy in health food shops. It tasted awful, so surely that made it okay. Ibrahim had once told him that walnuts were very good for you, so now Chris was eating a lot of walnuts. Where did you draw the line? Everywhere delivered now, not just the restaurants. That was bad enough, but the local shops. Chris could have Pringles and an arrow brought to his door within 10 minutes. He eats another handful of walnuts, chewing begrudgingly. Perhaps he would have an herbal tea or just order a Twix. What harm would that do? Or two Twixes because they were so small. Maybe a curry, but with a vegetable side dish instead of papadums. Stop thinking about food, Chris. Think about work. Ryan Baird's hearing is coming up. That should be an easy win. Think about Connie Johnson. Has she made any mistakes? He doesn't like the thought of her being driven around Fairhaven in that Range Rover like she owns the place. Chris's entry phone starts ringing. 9:45. Late for a visitor. Oh, someone's at the door. Chapter 49. Strictly speaking, it is not a date. She and a DCI from London had been on surveillance all evening, keeping an eye on Connie Johnson's lockup. Donna would rather have been on the stakeout with Chris, and now that her mom has gone back to South London, she'll get her wish soon enough. There was nothing to report at the lockup. A few lads on bikes coming and going. No new faces, no Connie. Donna had half expected to see Ryan Baird cycling up to the door at some point, but perhaps he's lying low until his court appearance. Connie had their number, that was for sure. If she and Chris could find a way of nailing her, then medals and promotions would surely follow. The DCI was one of a crew down from London for a couple of weeks. Connie Johnson was being taken seriously, and reinforcements had been brought in. He is currently sitting opposite her, drinking beer from the bottle. I don't need a glass, it's already in a glass. He was the only single man in the whole bunch, if Donna's extensive Facebook investigations were to be believed. The DCI is called Jordan or maybe Jaden. With dessert on the way, it was probably too late to ask which now. She has just been calling him Sir all evening, and he doesn't seem to mind. So far, she has found out that he has never watched Bake Off because it is mine. Nonetheless, he thinks that 5G phone masts are a government conspiracy and something to do with cancer, something keeping an eye on at the very least. He must be 35 or 40. It's so hard to tell with men at that age. He looks like he has strong arms, and that was enough for Donna to agree to dinner at Le Pont Noir after their shift. God, she is lonely. She's nearly 30 with friends pairing off and disappearing. Carl, her ex, was engaged already. He'd wasted no time. And this is a man who needed space and wasn't ready for commitment, babe. His fiance is a shoe influencer rather than a police officer, and they are getting married in Dubai. So Donna is the new girl in a new town, a black girl in a seaside town where she feels unwelcome or a novelty and has no interest in feeling either. Where are you from then? South London. No, where are you really from? Oh, I see. I'm from Streatham, a town where Boots doesn't have your shade of foundation, and the nearest person you can trust with your hair is in Brighton. None of this will kill her, but none of it helps her feel any less lonely. But you have to make the best of things, and You also have to hang out with people under 50 every now and again, hence this too obvious man, whatever he might actually be called. Best foot forward, Donna. I can't believe you haven't caught her yet, says the DCI, with the possibly strong arms. Connie's smart, says Donna. Smart for a small town, I suppose, says the DCI. Not smart for London. Lucky for you lot. Me and the cavalry have arrived. You haven't caught her either, says Donna. Not unreasonably, she thinks. London has different rhythms, love, a different heartbeat. I know, says Donna. I'm from London. You have to live it, really. You breathe it in, the big bad city. As I say, I was born there. Where are you from? Hi, Wycombe, says the DCI. The mean street, says Donna. Is that a joke? Asks DCI. No, it's just conversation, says Donna. You can join in. Does he have nice eyes? Well, they're a nice color, that's something. I'm staying at the Travel Lodge, by the way, says the DCI, looking at his watch, a fake Rolex, no doubt, borrowed from an evidence store. Donna nods. So she's going to have sex in a travel lodge this evening. If she doesn't want to be alone, so be it. Let's get the bill, get a bottle of wine on the way, and get it over with. A bit of oblivion while her mum and her boss are falling in love. Your governor, then, says DCI. Chris Hudson. He seems a bit helpless. I wouldn't underestimate him if I were you, says Donna. Be very careful now, Jordan or Jaden. He wouldn't last a second in London, says the DCI. Would he not? Asked Donna. Nah, he couldn't catch COVID, that one. Well, there it was. Donna wasn't going to have disappointing sex in a travel lodge this evening after all. Wasn't going to have to boost the ego of this nondescript man. What was she even doing here? What was she looking for? The waiter brings over the bill, and the mediocre DCI who just made the mistake of insulting her best friend takes a look. You okay going halves? Asked the DCI. Also, you had wine, so of course, sir, says Donna, reaching for her bag. She is going to have to do something about her life. In fact, she knows just the man she should talk to, Ibrahim. She just sent him the CCTV from the station. Would he mind if she came to see him? Donna doesn't need therapy, but she wouldn't mind a nice long chat with a friend who happens to be a therapist. Her phone pings. It's a message from Chris. Chapter 50. Chris Hudson pads over to the handset on the wall and picks it up. Hello. Perhaps it's Donna on her way home from a disastrous date with an ice cream salesman. Hi, Chris, it's me, says a disembodied female voice. Not Donna. Okay, says Chris. Any other clues? The voice on the phone laughs. I told you I knew where you live, silly. Chris freezes. Connie Johnson? Are you going to let me up? I have something to discuss with you. Won't take long. Chris curses beneath his breath and buzzes her in. What is this going to be? He quickly types out a text message to Donna. Connie Johnson at apartment. If I don't ring in 15 minutes, send a squad car. Chris looks around to see if the apartment is in any way presentable. And of course it is, because he made it presentable for Patrice and hadn't had enough time to ruin it yet. There's a knock at the door. Chris takes a deep breath and opens it. Hello, Chris, says Connie Johnson. Chris refuses to respond but ushers her in. Well, this is nice, isn't it? Says Connie, surveying the apartment. Small but nice. Oh, thank you, Jerry. Well, it's all I can afford without selling cocaine to children, says Chris. All right, Mother Teresa, says Connie, and sits on Chris's sofa. Chris takes a dining chair, places it opposite her, and sits. You know you're on thin ice, says Chris, coming around to a police officer's house. Says Connie. You're probably on thin ice inviting me up. Do you have anything to drink? No, says Chris, which is actually pretty much the truth. Be like that then, says Connie. I'll just get straight to it. What do you know? About you? Yeah, says Connie. I know you killed the Antonios. I know you've got a Range Rover. I know you're clever, but not quite clever enough to get away with what you're doing. So I'll keep plodding on. Says Connie again. Well, firstly, no comment. And secondly, I think you're pretty smart too. That's what people say. I'm not smart, says Chris. I'm smarter than you, but I'm not smart. Connie nods. Maybe. It was certainly easy to find out where you lived. Chris shrugs. It's quite easy to follow someone home, Connie. It is, agrees Connie. It was easy to follow you here, and it was easy to follow Donna DeFridas to 19 Barnaby Street, too. She's on a date tonight, by the way. Quite New Year. Chris laughs. This isn't the school playground. We're Fairhaven police officers. We live in Fairhaven. It's pretty easy to track us down, but if you're trying to scare me, try harder. You wouldn't touch a police officer, and you know it. I do, says Connie. So, what do you want? Well, nothing really. I just wanted to say that, as a businesswoman, there's a limit to how much I'm going to tolerate you poking into my affairs. Is there? There is. Taking photographs of my customers and so on. I'm approaching my limit now. So, just between friends, I'm telling you to tread very carefully. Chris nods. Sure, because you know my address and you know Donna's address. Terrifying. It's just a friendly warning, says Connie, pushing herself up on the sofa. If you're not worried, you can just ignore it. I will, thanks, says Chris, showing her to the door. Sorry I called so late, says Connie. I keep funny hours. She's gorgeous, by the way. Chris had been about to shut the door behind her, but had stopped in his tracks. Connie laughs. You've done very well for yourself, if you don't mind me saying. I bet you're missing her already, you here and her up in South London. Don't even think about this, Connie, says Chris. Think about what? Asks Connie. Just saying, Steatham's a long way away, huh? Connie, I'm not kidding. You're not smart enough to pull this off. Let it go. I might not be smart enough, smiles Connie, but I'm quite dangerous or unpredictable. That's the nicest way of putting it. I followed you home, but someone else followed Patrice home for me. Get out, says Chris. I'm already out, silly, says Connie. I promise we'll keep an eye on her for you. Make sure she's not up to mischief. She is really very pretty. Bet she keeps you on your toes, like all the best women. As Connie blows him a kiss, Chris slams the door and slumps back against it. Think quickly, assess the risk. Tell Patrice that Connie has just threatened her. Ask her to be careful. Look out for Range Rover. Terrify her for what? For some amateur's bluff? Jesus, was it a bluff? Just how unpredictable was Connie Johnson? Could he? Chris's phone rings. Donna. His 15 minutes are up. He knows he has to pick up. All clear, he says. What did she want? Asks Donna. Tell Donna the truth. Chris makes an instant decision. He hopes it's the right one. She just wanted to threaten me and you, just letting me know she had our addresses, telling us to ease off. Donna laughs. She thinks we'll be scared of her. I laughed her off too. Told her to do her worst. And that's all, asked Donna. Just some amateur intimidation? Yeah, sorry if I worried you. Don't be silly. You okay? You want me to pop over? We could watch another episode of Ozark. Chris opens a kitchen drawer that looks at a takeaway menu, neatly tidied away by Patrice. No, I should get some sleep. You had a good evening? Surveillance with that guy from the Met, Jonathan, says Chris. I'll see you in the morning. Night, Skipper, says Donna. Chris looks at the menus again. He would kill for a curry. He slams the door shut. If you don't love yourself, who's going to love you? Chapter 51. Ibrahim is popped up in bed. He has a cigar and a glass of brandy on his bedside table and his laptop open in front of him. He clicks on the CCTV file Donna has sent him. You will go a long way to find someone else in Cooper's Chase who knows as much as Ibrahim about IT, a long way. Now, I need you to listen carefully, says Ibrahim. Douglas and Poppy were murdered sometime before 5 p.m. on the 26th, so we only need to watch the footage from then until Elizabeth and Joyce check on the locker on Thursday, just the next 3 days or so. Okay, says Kendrick, and leans his head on Ibrahim's shoulder. Why don't I look through the 26th on my laptop and you look through the 27th on your iPad? Brilliant, says Kendrick. And if you see anyone trying to open locker 531, then just shout. Okay, says Kendrick. Well, I won't shout, I'll just tell you. That's a good plan, agrees Ibrahim. And let's talk while we're watching so we don't get bored, says Kendrick. Exactly, says Ibrahim, and presses play on the CCTV footage. The fastest he can play it is at 8 times speed. The facility opens at 7 a.m. and shuts at 7 p.m., so it will take him 90 minutes to get through the day. With Kendrick, he can cover 2 days in that time. Perhaps it's not the perfect job for an 8-year-old, but children were far too mollycoddled these days. Mollycoddled? I'm watching mine now, says Kendrick. What should we talk about? Ibrahim is looking at the black and white feed on his screen. The camera shows the whole aisle of lockers. Even at 8 times speed, not a soul has come or gone yet. How is school? It's okay, says Kendrick. Do you know Romans? I do, says Ibrahim. A backpacker has just stuffed her bag in a locker further down the aisle. Who's your best? Asked Kendrick. My best Roman? Mine is Brutus. There was a cleaner, but she didn't steal anything. I think I like Seneca the Younger, says Ibrahim. He was the greatest of the Stoic philosophers. He was very good on the theory of the whole thing, but also always looked to give practical advice. He believed philosophy was not a sacred text, but a medicine. Oh, great. Haven't done him, says Kendrick. What's the best dinosaur? Stegosaurus? Yes, we agree there, Kendrick, says Ibrahim and takes a swig of brandy. Does it hurt where they kicked you? Asks Kendrick, his eyes still clearly glued to the CCTV. I tell the others it doesn't, says Ibrahim, but it does very much. They probably know, says Kendrick. They probably do, says Ibrahim, but you're the only person I'm telling for sure. Thanks, Uncle Ibrahim, says Kendrick. Someone just took a box out of one of the other lockers, but just boring. Did you feel it when they kicked you? Were you frightened? Those are very good questions, says Ibrahim, as a man in a suit puts his briefcase in a locker, then takes off his tie and puts that in too. Lost his job and hasn't told his wife yet. I remember being very scared, and I remember feeling like I was in a washing machine. That's silly, isn't it? Not really, says Kendrick, if that's what you felt. And I knew I might die. I remember that. And I thought about that. And I thought it was okay, but perhaps unfair that this was how it was going to happen. And I thought, I wish I'd known. Uh-huh, says Kendrick. And I thought about your granddad, and I thought about Joyce and Elizabeth too. And I knew I would miss them. And I knew they would miss me. And I thought, I hope I don't die. I hope this ends up okay. I'm happy that you didn't die because then we wouldn't be doing this. Ibrahim lights his cigar. If I was being killed, I would think of Granddad too. And now I would think of you. And I would think about Cody at school and Melissa and also Miss Warren. And I would think mainly about my mom. Wow, that's a big cigarette. You shouldn't smoke. Did you know that? Ibrahim takes a puff. Mostly I do what I'm told. Life is easier that way, but sometimes I don't like to do what I'm told. Like me, says Kendrick. Sometimes I stay awake, but Mum doesn't know. You wouldn't think about your dad, asked Ibrahim, if you were being killed? Kendrick considers this for a moment. I think maybe he'd be angry about it. Ibrahim nods and tucks this away. I didn't think about my dad either. You don't have a dad, Uncle Ibrahim. He would be 1,000. The boys settle to their work for a while. Ibrahim sees 7 or 8 people walking up the aisle, always to other lockers, and Kendrick sees about the same. No one has yet touched locker 531. The occasional conversation is very easy, and Ibrahim discovers that Kendrick's favorite number is 13 because he feels sorry for it. And Kendrick sets him a quiz about the planets: biggest, Jupiter; best, Saturn, not Earth. You can't count Earth. The clock on the screen ticks on, 8 times faster than the clock on his bedside table. Another cleaner comes in at the end of the day, and they are done. "That was so good," says Kendrick. "Can we do the other day together now?" Ibrahim agrees that they can. He receives a text from Elizabeth. "Any news?" And he replies, "Yes, I'm concerned about Kendrick's relationship with his father." Elizabeth replies back with a rolling eyes emoji. She has really taken to emojis. After a toilet break, considerably quicker for Kendrick than for Ibrahim, they settle down for the footage from the day Elizabeth and Joyce open the locker, and so they will stop as soon as they see them. The fast forward black and white images zoom by once again. Neither Ibrahim nor Kendrick tires, because who tires when they're having fun? Ibrahim asks if Kendrick likes books, and Kendrick says he likes some of them but not others. And Kendrick asks if Ibrahim ever lived in another country, and Ibrahim replies Egypt, and Kendrick spells it for him. Ibrahim is looking at the video when around lunchtime he sees Elizabeth and Joyce and slows the footage down to a normal speed. He can't hear what they are saying, but you can always pretty much guess with those two. He sees them having trouble opening the locker, sees Joyce go into her bag, then sees Elizabeth try again, and the locker door pops open. The picture quality is not great, but you can make most things out. Elizabeth takes out the crisp packet, the one she showed Ibrahim this morning. Then Joyce puts it in her bag and they leave. Kendrick wants to see the footage of Joyce and Elizabeth and says, "Oh my goodness, it's really them," when he does, but they find nothing else and admit defeat. So no one had visited the locker, no one had tried to open it until Elizabeth and Joyce arrived. "I wish we'd seen a baddie," says Kendrick. "Me too," says Ibrahim. Elizabeth won't be pleased. "Let's do the day before," says Kendrick, "just for fun and in case." Ibrahim agrees because the moment this task is over, Kendrick will be heading back to his grandfather's. They watch the footage from the 25th, the day before Poppy and Douglas were murdered. Or just Poppy, if you believe Elizabeth. Had Douglas really faked his own death? They are a little quieter this time, both comfortable in the silence. Kendrick makes Ibrahim guess how fast a rocket is, but that's about it. As they're watching together, they both see the figure at the same time, walking down the aisle like 100 or so others they must have seen before. But this figure is wearing motorcycle leathers and a closed helmet, and this figure stops dead in front of locker 531. "What have we here, Kendrick?" says Ibrahim. "Maybe a baddie," says Kendrick. "Maybe a baddie," agrees Ibrahim, and takes another puff on his cigar. Who needs the outside world? Okay, I guess we'll pick it up there tomorrow, Wednesday. Chapter 52. What did you think of that? If Terry was here, I was going to say, "Oh, it's Terry in the leather motorcycle." But, well, he's still on vacation, so look at this. Look at this one. Mhm. I'm telling you, I still think Poppy's alive. And I still think her supposed mother, okay, is not her mother. Okay, it's in on it somehow. We'll see. We'll see. Still ways to go. Um, Tuesday, what are we gonna watch? There's no more Alien Earth. I've seen nothing but people criticizing it. And you know what? Terry, I had wrote like weeks and weeks ago, and I was like, or he wrote me because you guys knew I was watching Alien Earth. And he's like, "Oh, this is like an alien spinoff. I can't watch that. Like, don't mess with like a perfection." Um, So, but I'm just thinking maybe because I hadn't really seen all the aliens is why I like it. I don't know. I liked it. I think it's fun. I hope they do a season 2. Maybe look at like a new Halloween show since it is October. Where I want to take my skeleton out. We'll see if I bring it here. It's so nice to be back. I missed you guys so much. Is it cold where you are? It's not cold here. I was awake today after 1 because the pool guy was here. And actually, I hope nothing's wrong with my pool. I mean, it was pretty clean, but there were a lot of leaves on the bottom still. And I heard like a loud noise. And I'm like, well, they'll be back Friday at least. But I laid out for a little while and well, it was warm. So that was nice. I even jumped in the pool. Um, but I live in the desert, so anyway, maybe I stay because I'm nervous I won't get like last time I was like, all right, I'll see you on Sunday or well tomorrow on the other site, but um, and that I was suspended for some time, but anyway, I'm back now. I missed you so much. Uh, yeah, not cold yet. So sleep well. I see you tomorrow. I love you.